citizens forum. Seeing none, we'll move right on. Board committees. School boards. Question mark.
We are hosting that candlelight ski on March 16th, Wednesday, 5 to 7. So that's kind of our quick news right now. I think we'll have some stuff.
Yeah. I did get a chance to get out in the room this week. I don't know if the public's aware of that, but it is tough on that back 40. You know, that back road is really drifted. It's deep up there.
Yeah.
And managed to get stuck a couple times, which I don't think I've ever done in a rain. So anyway, that's done, but like you said, I think we got lots of snow. I just can't believe that we'll melt that now.
No.
And the other question I had for Woody, you said you didn't have a key to the community ed room, and I was hoping Seth, oh, there you are. I tried to get in the community ed room tonight, and there must be a specific key that not many people have. All right, is that like you I have to go through? All right, sorry about that, I just got it from the regular. All right, well, let's move on. Any other finance committee or whatever, policy committee?
Policy meets tomorrow, I believe, at 4.
I did meet the first.
Did we? I can't remember which one was.
Staff development, student agendas, funding meal.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
policy.
Yeah.
Out there.
Most of it was just revisions to make it reflect what happens here in the schools.
And a lot of them are just yearly review. There wasn't any changes, legislative changes. It's just you have to formally review it every year.
I make the assumption when I ask about policy meeting that if there was something that you were throwing on the table that was specific to Lake of the Woods or departed from what was being recommended in terms of the state, that's probably what we'd have a discussion about. But otherwise, all that red that I saw and all that stuff continues to be just state offering changes.
Yeah. Or sometimes like with the meal stuff, or there was one that was policy just to reflect what the school did, so Jeff, we read through those and then Jeff fixes.
Well, then you were gonna look at the local government one.
The fundraiser one?
Yeah.
Yep.
And that'll be discussion for a little bit, right? That's a different.
Yep, I'll talk about that, but that's one thing that we'll be working on with the policy committee.
That is interesting, the policy that came up that the state is now offering, or, you know, that got recommended there. I'm assuming it really came to what we had already done a couple of years ago, I think, right? In terms of our lunch.
Oh, the meal stuff?
Lunch
Yeah.
shaming situation. So that was nice to see that we were ahead of the step on that.
Yep.
Okay, and good segue right into your report there.
Okay. Anyone want to say anything about finance committee that met tonight?
Just in Crystal's absence, she's on a medical leave. Todd met and showed us a new format for the financial report, which I was really pleased with.
Yep, and I'm going to be meeting with him tomorrow, and he has a person that specializes on all the federal grants, and we have over $1 million in ESSER and different federal grants, and I think it's worth $150 an hour to have another person make sure that we are doing everything we can to capture all those funds and make sure that we're doing what we need to do to secure them. So.
And reporting
And reporting, and that's been a huge, I don't know, for lack of a better term, time sucker. All these different grants. Today I was in adjusting another one that had been adjusted, and it's very cumbersome, and there's lots of moving parts to it and different funding codes. I think having that person through SMS is going to help Crystal and I manage that a little bit better and be able to report out to you guys more accurately as well.
Is there someone that is going to be in the building? At any period?
Just me.
Has that been discussed at the finance committee level as far as staff support?
Well, Harley's taken over some of the HR things, so questions with time clock and payroll, she's kind of fielding those, as well as I am. And then we work with Todd to rectify things, so we're making a few adjustments in-house to address that. Should I move into my report now?
Yep.
Okay, so enrollment, I spelled it out in the agenda there. Total students were at 433, and that's down 7 from the first month of school. In the packet I put on your table is the most updated COVID-19 data report, and you can see move down to the weekly case counts for Lake of the Woods County, and you can see back on January 9th through the 15th we had 50 positives in the county, and you can see the last 2 weeks on this report through the 26th we're at 5 and 6 respectively. At school we're not testing as many, but our positives are down. For the week of February 14th through the 20th we had 3 positives. Last week, the 21st to the 27th, we had 2 positives. I'm not aware of any positives that were tested today, but that sometimes that information's lagging. But so I'm just going to get to the point. I'm going to recommend, and it's for board action at a regular meeting, to go to the low level as far as our tier health and safety procedures at Lake of the Woods School. I'm also recommending that we eliminate extra monthly board meetings and return to just our normal 4th week of the month for most months, besides a few. The COVID-19 data review, at one time I had thought about going to every other week, but Kay and I met today, and we're going to continue to meet on Mondays, and just even if it's just a 10-minute call, just to keep that going, because there are some other variants that might sneak in, and so we're going to continue to do that. I will continue to collect this information and post it on the website, as I have been doing. And then most of you have probably heard that the CDC has dropped the mandate for masking, so that's going to be another recommendation to take in effect immediately. So we won't have to worry about the masking issue on buses or school vehicles. So.
Did you say that's on buses?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think what eventually will worry less about the positive cases and the data will be more focused on hospitalizations and the impact on that. I think eventually that's where we'll end up. I also included an updated version of our learning plan, and I went in and I updated the federal bus mandate. I took that out of there. And I think that's the major change in that. Otherwise, as far as the testing, we'll still offer it. We still are needing to do some of the isolation with testing, the shortened days and stuff. We still are going to do that. So that's also on the agenda to be approved tonight. Any questions so far? Okay. And then the fundraising, I know that issues crept up a little bit, and I did send out an email to the board on that. So I think we need to go back to our policy and request forms and make sure that we clearly identify what's fundraising. Going to the county or the city commissioners and asking for donations is fine, but we want to have a process to manage it. So that's one thing that I'll be taking back to the policy meeting, is to clarify that and make it a little more apparent what steps people should be taking before they approach different entities. And we also have to keep in mind with some of the fundraising, if it involves food, we have healthy food or healthy snacks requirements as part of our wellness, so I think I just need to take a look at all that, clean it up, and then communicate that to everyone so everyone's on the same page. And then I just added today, snuck up on us, our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. Every year we have to do an annual compliance for vote of concurrence. So I actually did a meeting with that committee via email and a few phone calls to fill all the gaps and complete the process. So that's in your board packet, and that's something that's presented to the board. It's nothing that you approve. The vote was that there was concurrence that Lakewood School is doing what we need to do to meet the needs of our American Indian students. And that's something that the board chair will sign tonight, and then I'll submit it on time to MD tomorrow. And I think that's it. Also in the packet, and when it gets to his turn, just so you know what's in there, is the electric usage that Mr. Butts will be discussing. And then IT department, I'm just going to skip down and do that because Bill's not here to present it. But I did put in the packet that was mailed out some information on some E-rate things. And I think we're looking at 3 projects that's covered by E-rate. Roughly $17,500 project for Cisco switches, about $7,600 for firewall updates, and then with Wickstrom, $13,800 for 4 network fiber runs. So that's just some information I thought that we should share from the IT department. Any questions?
It's new fiber. It's new fiber. It's not like replacement.
I
Not that it matters. I'm just curious.
I will say it's 4 network fiber runs, whatever that means. I'm assuming it's just new fiber.
Yeah.
I'm not going to even try to go down
I was
that
just wondering
rabbit
if
hole.
it's like upgrading or if it's.
Yes,
like
it's all
new.
upgrade. It's all upgraded.
It's not like serving some kind of underserved area of the building or something like that.
No, I think it's just all upgrades.
What is E-rate?
It's federal dollars, and we actually contract someone that goes through the process. Bill might be able to explain it better than I can, but you have to meet certain criteria, and certain things you can get E-rate funding. It's federal dollars to support IT at public entities.
So it's like a grant that he's getting.
It's kind of like a grant, yep.
So it's not coming out of district funds?
No, it's part of our E-rate funding, and it's something we apply for to get some of these types of things taken care of. And that's a layman's response to that question, so just so you know. That's my simple understanding of it, but.
Jeff, I'm a little late in this, but I see too that our county's in the medium, so the masking recommendation is done too through CDC for in the school. Preschool, it says CDC is making this a change to align with updated guidance that no longer recommends universal indoor masking K through 12 and early childhood in areas with a lower medium COVID community level. And I looked at ours as medium, so.
Oh, it is now. It's changed then.
I just looked
within the
today.
last- Okay, then it just changed today, because this
Yeah,
weekend it was
I mean, I
high
just looked
still.
right now, because
Yep.
so, I was just thinking of all the Head Start stuff and all that, it's like, oh
Yep.
my goodness,
Don't think that's in effect. I mean, even if it's not mandated anymore, even if we got to the red, it'd be
Right.
My understanding is that they would highly recommend that
Yeah,
scheme.
but I mean, it was, you know, I was pleased to see that we were medium, because I thought we might still
Yes.
be high in the county, you know, you never know with those metrics.
I know yesterday was still high on the CDC site.
Okay, I just went to the link, so,
Well, that's good.
Stay up to date.
yeah. And that was at 8:30 this morning, they sent that out.
Yeah.
Pretty current.
I believe that's what I read.
That's all I have unless there's questions
Okay,
or.
any further questions for the superintendent? Hearing none. High school principal updates.
Good evening. Parent-teacher conference for high school is this Thursday, and it's open house format, so inviting parents in whenever they want to come in between 3:30 and 7. With that said, I have asked teachers of, especially students that they may have concerns of, that they contact parents to schedule a set time if we're able to do that, so we can do a little more reaching out to parents of those kids of concern to have that face-to-face contact, since we can be back in that format again. Winter conference, which I attended the end of January, was wonderful. Probably saw one of the best keynote speakers ever. And the title of his talk was, "Is my school a better place because I lead it?" And it is a person, and I'm not gonna crucify his name, so you need to look on my report to see his name, but Rudy Caffell. And then Manny Scott. Manny Scott really is somebody who you couldn't have seen a kid with a worse obstacles against him, and how just the right person reaching out and touching him and that encouragement and follow-up, you know, made him stick to it. And now he's a professional with graduate degrees, and so really kind of to give you that boost to know you might not think a kid's listening, but they are when you don't think they are. So and then other sessions that I really focused on, one had to do with student wellness in rural schools. And you know, I will say one of the biggest battles we're up against through this in the past year and a half, 2 years, is a lot of mental health issues with adults and kids, and, you know, trying to just jump back into what normal teaching is. You can't, I mean, that's basically what we've done, but then to realize, you know what, there's some extra stress put on kids. Think about how it was, school was done for 3 months, you know, being distanced, and then even last year for the most part, every other day. Regardless of how we tried, it wasn't the same rigor as when you're in the building in the same day. So to really help get some supports in for kids and encourage them, whether it's seeing Mrs. Stenberg or just talking to any adult in the building that you feel comfortable with, to know, you know what, we can make adjustments and help you guys out. Don't just give up and be stressed when talking to somebody. Just sometimes saying you're stressed and venting a little can help. So very good session there too. And then I, for probably 2 months now, was trained to give the Accuplacer, and Diane now has also been trained so we can give it in-house to the kids, basically on demand, which is a test which would qualify them, depending on reading and or math, to take college classes. So we don't have to send them somewhere to take this test. So that's been a big help, and we've already had 15 of our sophomores take the test. So high flyers in that class, which is fun to see. And then the big things for tonight really are the course handbook, and then it's a very preliminary schedule, but you have copies of those. You know, one thing I really wanted to try and focus on is to get our kids more elective classes if we can, especially if it's something, elective classes in-house. I just feel very strongly if we can have that face-to-face with our teachers. And you know, we had a number of teachers that really would rather teach than have a study hall, so that really helped open the door to things. And so when this is probably the schedule that's going to be the easiest to look at rather than to page through the course handbook, but a recommendation number one I'm making for next year is economics is only required to be half a year. We just have to do one semester. So I am recommending that we do the one semester. It's typically the junior year that we want our kids to have that. So that opens up the other semester, depending on which semester they take it, to put an elective class in there for them. And then this year is the first year because of the way our FIED changed, and this shift happened before I came. But the kids will have FIED in 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then one more semester somewhere between 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So when you look at Mr. Sather's schedule, team sports, weightlifting, and racket sports are some of the electives that we added in there for our kids. And then it was funny because I had some kids ask me, well, can we take that if we've already taken the other required one? And it's like, yes, that's what electives are now. These are the credits you get to take as you choose to take them. And then with Mrs. Moeller, because she's able to do the college credit now, this year it was World Lit and Applied Communication. Next year it'll be American Lit and Composition 1. So we'll continue then to alternate that. So our kids will be able to get 4 semesters of college English credit now as well. And then with Mr. Larson, we will continue with the Calc 1 period and statistics another period. At least for a couple of years, it's looking like we will have enough kids that will want to enroll in those classes to support having those. And then when you look at Mrs. Hasbargen's schedule and Mr. Lane's schedule, like Mrs. Hasbargen, the intro to engineering and the carpentry tech, those alternate years with, like this year, it's a architect and engineering class, so they alternate years, so the kids can get those in. And then with social studies, we're looking at, for electives, a pop culture class and a sociology class. And if there'd be enough interest with the sociology, we would be able to do that for AP credit also for the kids. So I just put it as sociology. To do the AP, our teachers just have to connect with College Board. It's a pretty simple process for them to get the training they need to do that, but we'll let the students drive that if we want it just for regular credit or to get the AP component in it. I think that pretty much covers it. Do you have any questions about the schedule or the offering?
What happens if you get just a couple of kids out of that social group that want to do the AP?
We can do that because, like, when you look at our psychology class right now, the majority of the kids are taking the AP test, but if there's a couple that don't want to, you don't have to. So we can do it both ways.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Just because they take the class doesn't mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to take the test if you take the class, but just because you take the class.
Sometimes you're just intimidated and afraid to take it, but you're right. But Diane needs to get that scheduled, so they do need to make a commitment pretty early in the school year if they want to take it. And by early, I mean prior to Christmas break, that they do have to make that commitment so she can get it ordered for them. Because the AP test is a set day that College Board determines the date and the time for the different subjects when that test is given. And then I do have on there, prom is scheduled for April 30th, and then our post-prom parents have decided they're gonna use the arena again because that was such a nice setup for post-prom. So we're moving forward on those. Anything else? Any other questions?
Okay, hearing none. Moving on to the business office.
Jeff, you feel that?
Business is carrying on.
Okay, well done.
I will,
Any questions?
we do have a budget report that the finance committee went over with Todd, and I just got it this afternoon, so it's on that schedule. I will get this in the board packet and send it out, so.
And did he say next month would be
Next
the
month,
revised?
We'll approve the revised budget, and once we approve the revised budget, then the next step will be looking at a 5-year projection.
And when you guys looked at it today, I mean, We looked at the financial report.
And you're comfortable with the way the process is working forward? I mean, you would say if you didn't,
Yeah, I think we're fortunate that we're contracted with SNS at this time.
Make Jeff be able to see
Yes,
it.
yep, so it helps to have, because he's got a team that can kind of pull the gaps, even though it's not
Same,
in-house, in
yeah.
person, but,
Things will still get done.
yep.
and does that fall in your lap at the moment? I mean, is it directed towards you?
I'm just part of the link. When payroll question comes, I send it off to Crystal and Todd, and Harley's involved with some things. She's picked up a few things with some of the HR stuff. So
Time clock stuff
time
too.
clock, yeah. So there's a number of people involved, and someone jumps in and says, "I got it." So it's all things considered, it's pretty smooth right now. But there's a few other gaps that we're trying to collect and cover in the district office, but we're making it work.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All right, I guess let's move on from there. The one question I would, in the back of my mind is, I know at one point we had talked about going ahead and advertising for that position anyway to see if there was somebody available. Whether or not we decided to move forward with that, is that something we're still doing or want to do?
I would think we would, it's just depends on when you want to do it.
Are you guys talking about that at a committee level or? No, or no?
Not yet.
No,
I mean, did we
haven't.
Did we have that sort of pushed off until the end of the year and then we're gonna decide, or were we looking at it?
I thought we still
Yeah.
thought March or April we would
Yeah.
have that
Yep.
discussion.
Was it?
It's technically still February.
Is that something we want to throw on the agenda for the March board meeting? And have some discussion before then? And see how things go, but also I know we had discussed whether or not this is working. We just thought, let's find out if there's a position available out there that we might entertain.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we have to act on it. Are we okay with that?
Would that be a discussion with the finance committee to bring a recommendation, or just put it on the working session for a discussion, or?
I'd say put it to the committee to begin with, we can hash it around a little bit
Okay.
and kind
Yeah,
of present
you guys
something
are-
to the board. And
Got your hands on that. So we'd have a good focus on what we need to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, and I'll have a definite recommendation, so too.
All right. Where are we here? Let's, activities director and community ed.
Yeah, so winding down the winter season, as in we have a girls' home basketball playoff game tomorrow against Clemax Fisher at 7 p.m. If you want to come out and support the girls. If they win, they will move on and will not be at home, but will play Thursday. Boys basketball seeding happens on Wednesday, so we'll learn what their playoff potential is after that date. Boys hockey did not get a good seeding, but they did come back and got an underdog win in their first round of playoffs and played quite well. They beat Crookston handily last Tuesday. Was that last Tuesday? Anyway, last week. And then played Thief River on Thursday and lost 4-0, but had a good showing there as well. So an exciting season for our winter sports. Lots and lots of movement in terms of games. So and reschedules given weather and COVID and sickness and all sorts of stuff. So grateful for the teams and coaches' patience and all of that. Other highlights from the winter season included we hosted our one-act play subsection competition. Our one-act play tied for second. First two teams advanced to sections. Our team tied for second, and in a kind of points countdown, they ended up taking third. So we're very close, third place.
they did a coin toss.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a coin toss. I don't know where that.
That's what they
Yeah, I
told
don't know
us.
where that rumor got started. I heard that at some point. It was a
Okay.
scoring kind of countdown based on, where they got placed by certain judges and things like that. So, yeah, so quite a great showing though, I think. And then we had performances, one night of which got canceled because of weather, but performances locally for them as well. Knowledge Bowl is also on its current run. March 9th, they go to regions. They placed 4th in their sub-regional meet and are going on the 9th to regions. So I think there's some hope that if they do well and they get there without having any bus breakdown, which happened, or weather issues, that they will do well. I mean, talk about weathering the storm proverbially. It was not great weather and their bus broke down on the way to Thief River, but they made it thanks to Doyle, and they, like I said, did not miss their written round, the first round, and were able to take 4th in that sub-regional meet. So they're doing quite well, and we're excited to see where they go. Looking ahead in the kind of short-term interim between seasons, we've got elementary swim club, which Lisa's putting on in the pool. Had quite a good turnout for that. I don't know exact numbers, but I can get you those. Rod building is starting this week between Seth and Ralph Christofferson. That's been a long-time staple of community ed. Starting up the plans for summer ball, which is quite exciting, trying to get that in place. And then we will start spring sports, the high school spring sports. Girls softball and track start the 14th, and boys baseball and golf, I think, start the 21st. So right around the corner. So that's what I've got for an update. Any questions in the meantime?
The hockey game got me thinking about this, and we've kind of bounced around before, and Seth can probably answer this. Well, no, I guess it would be more Brad.
Yeah.
Can we send an activity bus when like, it would have been neat to have sent one to Crookston or Thief River or something?
So we did send one to the Kitson volleyball game in the fall, which was a good success. We did not send one on Thursday because I think we had other games going on. And typically, I think that's right. Typically, we try and...
It might have been basketball.
There was girls' basketball, I think, was...
Yeah, I mean...
Girls' basketball.
I do a little bit
Saturday.
of math to see, okay,
Yeah.
are there enough people around,
Yeah.
not at away games, not their own home games, to make sure that we can field this?
Yeah, you get a driver limitations, probably
right.
the biggest factor.
And I think in a turnaround, a quick turnaround like that, as in a Tuesday to Thursday, is a little bit tougher to do. Sometimes when you get a weekend in between those playoff games, there's a little bit more time to hype it up. Had we won on Thursday and gone Saturday, I think we would have had a decent turnout to be able to do that. So
No, it just got me thinking about, because I know my daughters they sound like there are a bunch of kids driving to Thief River, and it's like, it'd be nice if we could put them on a school bus instead.
Right, I agree. So I went, and thankfully the roads were good, but I think it's a little bit of that game. Do you put another school bus on the road if it's potentially bad weather, but are you also then preventing them from driving themselves in that way? So, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do that with basketball coming up or something like that.
Well, we got a home game here tomorrow, so that's a good deal, and then we'll see what...
I'm assuming they're gonna win, so.
Right, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Yeah, so we'll see what comes of it.
Okay.
Or we could send one for Knowledge Bowl.
Yeah.
Not
Could.
sure what kind of demand there is for spectator sport.
It's kind of like spectator sport for cross country or track and stuff.
During the school days.
You know, you
Yeah.
need 3 buses.
It'd be
Yeah.
full bus.
Yeah.
I think you'd probably have a great turnout given that, right? It's during the school days, so you don't have to go to school.
We have a history of successful Knowledge Bowl. You and I were having that discussion, but this is not a blip in the system. This is 20, 30 years of, I don't know. I mean, we're drinking something in the water proper or something. I'm impressed all the time. It sounds like this one's pretty sharp too.
Yeah, they got a good crew right now. Wish I could name all the names. You might be able to help me. Yeah. For fear of not being able...
miss anybody.
Right, for fear of missing someone, I'll hold off on naming names, but yeah, quite excited. Liz Tangy is coaching that team, so she deserves credit for making that happen.
Any further questions for Sam?
I have just a quick question about, there was a batting cage talked about last fall?
Yeah, I appreciate the follow-up. One of those projects that in the eagerness of a new job, I think I thought I could pull off, and then it's kind of slowly been pushed to the bottom of my list. I had potentially hoped we could try and pull it off to do it before the baseball season, because you can can drill those holes in the winter, but I think given the current snowscape, it's not feasible. I'd like to pursue it this summer. So appreciate the follow-up for sure. It's still on my list, it just keeps kind of getting pushed.
The rate we're going, it's kind of a coin toss as whether or not the snow's gonna be off the fields by the time
Right, I
school's
mean, I
over.
think we're all kind of like, just like not sure. It's gonna be a long gym season for those teams. So hopeful, and we do have a great maintenance crew who, you know, tries to make that happen, whether it's snowblowing tracks or whatever, you know, has always been helpful in making that happen as soon as we can, but
Just get
those
the,
track at this point is gonna be like snow on the sides and you're running in a tunnel.
I just get the vision for baseball of the snow blower down the baseline. Don't worry about the pitcher mound, it's the same level because it's packed snow and.
All right, well, thank you. Seth, buildings and grounds?
Yeah, so I can start off with the energy consumption report. I tried bringing it up here, but my desktop from my desk here doesn't transfer. We'll just go off the sheet. There's quite a bit of history here. Reed did a really good job at benchmarking, and I just kind of took over with it. And you can see from way back in 2007, the amount of energy that was used, the electricity, compared to today. We're using less energy today than we were way back then, just because of the changes that were made. And I can kind of follow the progression. You can see actually when the timers were put in the street lights, that's in 2019. In yellow, you can see the difference in the price right there. And then on the other side, you know, with that also with the street lights, it also shows in 2019 where everything is red, where the energy usage spiked, and we traced it back to the RPL for the hockey arena. That's on the street lights, on the street light bill. And if you look in the yellow, in 2020, what energy savings that was the last finishing touch of converting to LED. And that made a huge difference, along with the rebate that came with that. Just kind of give you a little bit of history, see what's going on with the school, and make sure everything's going in the right direction.
When was the marquee put up?
It was turned on in December of 2019. So if you look at the difference from November to December, it jumped from 241 to 430.
Is that an expense that we should be putting on our reports for the arena levy thing? Isn't there some type of matching that we have to do to that, for that? I'm just asking the question. It seems like I remember that.
I think there's been talk too that, going off of Ned LaValle, who's an electrician, who said he doesn't believe that spike is totally attributable to that. He's wondering if there's a, you know, ground bleed somewhere in there or something going on that's not proper. It's an LED sign, you know, with minimal.
Well, you
It
should
should
be
have
able
minimal
to.
impact, and I think he's surprised, like you were, Seth, at the way that spiked when that went up. So we may have to do some more legwork on that, because I think the arena, we talk about them being responsible for that. But at the same time, I think that there's a thought that it's not comparing apples and apples there, or something's not.
I'm just going off the data, which I do when I do the benchmarking. You look at all the history, all the way up to that point. And then the two coincide.
Right.
It jumps up there from the information that I got. That's what leads to that.
Right, possibly related, like I say, I'm just going on what an electrician tells me, but is that shouldn't be that level of jump up, so it might be an installation issue or something.
Well, and wouldn't you think it would drop in the summer when we have significantly more, well, no, the light, it's lit up all the time, never mind.
Yeah.
It's not like never
Requires
mind.
the same.
Yeah. It's the big bright one, not, I'm thinking like street lighting is what I'm thinking, never mind.
You can see typically in every year that it drops from May, June, July, August, starts going back up in September, October. You can see that pattern.
Yeah,
So
both,
it does drop during the summer.
Actually, this doesn't show that.
Yeah, now it's pretty consistent.
yeah,
Well, now it is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to be, I'm looking at 2018, for instance, down to $98 in June.
so that so what's in red it's the sign and the streetlights, yeah.
So it really never
It
goes
doesn't,
down at all.
Not anymore.
not really.
It used to, but
By 100.
Right, so I mean, very possibly the two are related, it's just a question we gotta figure out how, so
Well, there
that
was
might be
one-
something we
yeah.
are interested in spending
You're maxing
I mean, the
at
summer
some
used to
money
be
on. looking
19.
into it. Is that kind of what you're getting
And you're
at?
maxing
Yeah,
at 200
so I would like
so
to
you're,
find out.
you've got 100.
Yeah,
What it is.
it's
And now
a
it's
substantial amount now, 400 extra bucks a month there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, is somebody following up on that?
I think that we are expecting that to happen. I don't know if the school, like Linda said, is the school obliged to pursue that and then look back at the arena, or is the arena obliged to start the process? And I would like to say, maybe we push on Ned and say which direction we go, or the rural electric company and say, do we get somebody to come in and inspect this?
Can you meter it, or can you just look at the specs for that
Meter the
sign
sign
and see
independently
what
and
it's
see if
supposed to
that's
be
See what it's
drawing?
supposed to be drawing, yeah.
yeah,
There.
Yeah.
Or just have less verbiage on it.
they just have a clamp on it. Yeah. They should be able to figure this out very quickly.
Right,
Like
and
it's
it's a neat design.
Just red wire it.
So I'd say, why
abbreviated
doesn't
right
the
now.
school, I guess I'm proposing that the school contacts, maybe the electric company would. do
Probably the
something.
electrician first, I
Yeah,
would say.
okay, well then get the electrician and look into it and go from there.
Try to get some answers.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're questioning the usage on the sign, I suppose, that's what I would
it's
say.
just to get down to why there's such a huge spike.
It's certainly correlating with the time when it went in, so
Yeah, because
either it's
even-
usage or.
Even if the sign is consistent, you'd think you'd still see
Draw.
the pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we turn the sign off for a month to see what happens.
The electrician who told him that he was.
Cantor Electric did, out of the falls, did the electric work on it. I'd have to check.
I think Kevin Hall and his crew did the final tie-in on it.
Oh, okay.
I do believe it was.
Yeah, I'd have to go back.
From North Star or from Holland Electric, you mean? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
'cause-
worth looking into.
Yeah, that's just something that kind of popped out that one.
We're probably overdue for a meeting with.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened, but.
We'll see if we can get this started and then incorporate that into a meeting to see what responsibilities we have.
This is a good, really great information.
It's interesting.
I know Sam and I talked quite a bit. I actually held off last year from giving this report just because of, so we could do a little bit of research into it. We really didn't find anything that we don't know now. To take it farther, I think we recommend the electrician or electric company to take a look at it, maybe break it down and make sure everything works properly. I do have the gas one. I don't have the gas one printed up. I'll save that one for next board meeting, if that's okay with you guys.
Do we have a gas leak?
What's that?
Do we have a gas leak?
Any red flags?
No.
Okay.
We got it fixed. But I am working right now with the gas company, can't even think of the name off the top of their head. They do believe that we could be getting possibly a 5-digit refund because of all the upgrading that we had with the controls.
Oh, good.
So we've been working, I've been trying my best to bring in money instead of spend it all the time. But it is, with them, with changing the controls and stuff, they said that it is going to be significant savings the first year.
How's Comfort been in the building?
What's
Any
that?
Comfort, has any complaints? Once you saw a lot of times when you put a new system in, somebody gets cold.
Actually, it's been the other way around.
Okay.
What we've been finding out is now that that we have more data, we have graphics and stuff, it's a lot more intricate. We've been finding that the way the system is set up, if the CO2 goes off, we gotta set at 700, which is extremely far below the allowable limit. If it goes up to 701, 702, it'll call for 100% fresh air intake. What's happening when it's 20, 30 below, it's just freezing the sensors because it opens so fast. So in default, what happens is everything opens up to 100%, which is a good thing. I'd much rather have people complain that it's hot than that it's freezing. So we also have found out a lot of little gremlins that we have in here that nobody's known about before going through it. One example, one of the valves that we had was actually running backwards. So the person kept saying it was colder in their room, so they kept turning it up. The more they turned it up, the colder it got. So because of the graphics and everything that we've been working with Peterson Sheet Metal, we went up there, Dale went up there, they diagnosed it when they turned it up. They kicked the motor on faster, but it was going backwards. So it was drawing in cold air instead of hot air. So little gremlins like that we haven't been able to track down because of the lack of transparency, I guess, through the graphics and everything. Been a great help. I can even learn this really quickly, so that's a big thing.
Good.
So, yeah. Anything else with that? And move on to personnel schedule changes. So that one with Fertile retiring kind of left a gaping hole because he was able to, the hours that he worked, he was able to maneuver his hours during the week to cover what was on the weekend. So we figured out what we had to do. Dave, who was up for approval tonight for a full-time, he was working a 4-hour part-time. And to fill part of the hole, or most of the hole that Fertile left, we moved Dave to an 8-hour shift. So he took 4 hours of cleaning that Fertile had during the week, and then his 4 hours. Then we were left with what are we gonna do on the weekend? So figured with Dave, we gave him Saturday night off. He's the one that actually suggested this, taking Friday night off, because anything that happens Friday night can be cleaned on Saturday. So we have him, he's working Monday through Thursday, 8 hours, and then 10 hours on Saturday to cover the Saturday shift that Fertile had there. So that was one of the changes we made. Woody, he volunteered, he's coming in once a month just to go through, check all the fire extinguishers that we have to do. It's a required monthly check. So he stepped up and doing a fantastic job with that, so we filled that void. And then also once a week, he's coming in doing cardboard, which Fertile usually did on Sundays. So we got trying to do the best we can with what we got, and it's helping tremendously for these guys stepping up with that. Any questions on personnel changes for scheduling or anything?
How many fire extinguishers do you have, Woody?
Oh, we got 46 in-house and we got 8 over in Bus.
And you have to weigh them and everything, or just look at them?
I take a look at them occasionally, if they look dirty, wipe them off a little bit, take them, make sure that.
Okay.
Still fluid, the pin's still in them, that seal hasn't been broken.
Yep.
They're still charged. Yeah, so I really appreciate you stepping up on that one. That saves a little bit of worry for me. So then we get to, which draws us into number 3, staying open or closing Sundays due to short staffing. My suggestion right now is on Sundays, what I would like to do is keep the school side closed. Anything beyond the community ed center, which would be the gym, the small gym or utility gym, walking track, party area, and the pool. The reason why those could stay open is because there is responsible people that are in the pool at the time that should be able to take care of any situation, or if there's a situation they can't take care of, they would know to call somebody who's on call. We would rotate that and then pay accordingly. so far I've been covering every Sunday, but 6 and 7 days a week is kind of wearing me down a little bit. So we gotta figure out something else to do. That's my recommendation to do that. The example for Sunday, I was in here cleaning up, took 6 hours, just cleaning up after the dance. While I was there, there was a mother and 2 grade school kids that used the small gym for about a half an hour. That was all it was, that's all that was in there. You know, can't see paying somebody time and a half to be here on Sunday when they don't need to, when they can be on call. The on-call situation would be, they will pay you 1 or 2 hours just to be on call, and then time and a half if you get called in. That would be my recommendation on how to do that. That's the only way you can really get people to step up to be on call. You know, kind of tick them off to say, well, you're on call, you know, you might miss out on your family stuff. Force them to do that. Very against that.
I will say we do have gym things happening on Sunday, and I can move them into the multipurpose gym, but there's an adult basketball group that plays like 1 to 3 on Sunday, and then we've got some demand for JO time on Sunday afternoons, as well as then archery has got a party, and some of this I've talked to Seth about in terms of, for, you know, like future stuff he can schedule around, like an archery tournament. You know, if it's an event like that, we can schedule around it. I think as the facility use or community use side of that, I would say totally doable to, do Seth's plan. I do think there's a long-term question I have about usage on Sundays. Like, is this a long-term solution, or are we thinking about this just in the short term until we hire somebody else? You know, and I think Seth and I have been talking about that.
That's something that we talked about. We haven't even got anybody to come in and apply for the plow position yet. That's something else I've been doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think reality is the staffing shortage is not going to end anytime soon. So, you know, he and I have been scheming a little bit on other potential solutions, this being one of them in the short term, and if we need to, are there long-term solutions in terms of policy changes, which is a whole nother can of worms, but, yeah.
I reached out to put it out to the Massmus group, which reaches out to 400 and some different schools on what they do. Some of them said absolutely not. If there's not a custodian in the building, nobody's in the building, period. Another one said, look at your insurance policy. Talk to the lawyer. What is the school gonna cover in that, like that? Some say it depends on what it is. If it's a teacher, absolutely they could be in there. They are qualified to do that. If it's students, absolutely not. If it's an outside, like JO volleyball, no, because those are outside entities. They're not through the school. One of them said, there's another one that I got, anything outside the school, we charge accordingly. If they have it, they have to have a custodial there. They're responsible for that wage to cover it.
Yeah, and I would say, like I said, if there are potential changes to the policy, it inevitably requires us to go look at our insurance policies and, you know, so like I said, it's a larger can of worms then.
Yep.
But I do think there's a little bit of a middle ground where we could say, okay, scheduled, approved activities, if it's Katie Piper and her girls basketball team, she might be approved because she's an employee of the school, she's been appropriately trained, she knows how to handle a potential situation, but a JO volleyball group would not because they're not an employee of the school. So, like I said, I think there's some potential middle ground there, and if we want to pursue that, Seth and I have talked informally about this stuff, just kind of, you know, trying to figure things out, but, you know, would be happy to do some research on potential solutions.
Closing on Sunday, Jeff, is that a decision that's made by the board? How does that?
That's gonna be you guys are gonna have to make that call. Whatever you decide is what's gonna happen.
And how does that?
Is it an action item? I guess that's what you're asking.
not an action item tonight, but
Okay.
Come up with a recommendation.
maybe as
I
staff.
think we need to have a buildings and grounds facility type.
Yeah, that'd probably be the best.
Because we have two opposing forces, you know, we have lack of staff, lack of custodial coverage. But we're also a community school and we want to be available and have it open to the community. So it's kind of, how do you, kind of like what Sam says, you're gonna have to kind of weigh things and try to come up with something so that we can burn out all our custodians.
Yeah.
But also still make sure that we're a community school. You know, so it's gonna have to be kind of some discussions on that, and I think maybe before the next board meeting, we can have a schedule meeting. And we'll have that committee.
And come with
solve all
a
the
recommendation
ones. Yes,
that everyone will love.
yeah. I'd like to look at- It happens all the time. Cause I'd like to look at some of the data that he's collected from other schools. And we'll invite the facility person to.
Well, and I can, you know, similarly do some data collection on our other schools letting, you know, their teams practice. Like, that's what I mean by, I think there are some lines in there that we could draw that would be a natural, you know, keeping external groups, covering ourselves liability-wise in that, I guess is my intention.
Yeah. And other towns, you know, I mean, they might have a luxury of having a community center and,
Right.
you know,
Right.
we don't.
Yeah, but I think we could find schools like Nevis or, you know, or these small rural schools. Kids in Central might be another one where what is their building policy in a way that it relates to their athletics and activities.
Gotta think it's gotta go with whatever the insurance company says.
Yes, I think that's,
That's,
yeah.
yeah.
Is there a balance between the schools that you researched that answered your question? Is there a balance between those schools that close on Sunday and those schools that are open on Sunday?
Yeah, it seems to be leaning more towards there has to be a custodian on staff. Just for liabilities, that's what the biggest one that I got was that, for liability issues or if something major happens, you know, who's there, are they trained to shut it down? Water line breaks,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Yeah, I think the point he and I were talking about actually this morning was, I think we often go to the like, oh, if somebody breaks a leg or hits their head on a wall or something. Reality is that happens. Everyone's got a cell phone. You're not calling a custodian with help like that. It is facility focused events like toilets flooding. There's an alarm going off. And that's stuff that frankly you're not going to train a coach to fix by any means. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, that's where risk becomes that fine line of if we followed risk, the kind of risk averse philosophy all the time, we'd be in a bubble. So it's this kind of dance in terms of how much risk we want to take. Often that's governed by what your liability insurance is going to cover. And so I think you're right, Boyd, that that's the place where we should start in terms of where that line happens. I know, it's infuriating. So squeaky.
Further discussion for Seth? Okay, thanks for taking on some of those headaches, because it sounds like you guys appreciate you being the force that's gonna make something happen there. All right, let's move on. Transportation, I see no Brad. Questions or comments? Okay. Food service, same.
Jackie said they were good.
Pardon?
Jackie said they were good.
Okay.
I have one food service comment. I don't know where to remember where I read it, but somewhere in some of the material I read that now Medicaid is going to be an eligibility for the free lunch.
Direct
lunch.
certification.
Yeah,
That's not gonna solve all our.
but that's gonna help.
Yeah, it'll
right?
help a little bit.
It'll help some, yeah. I can't remember where I read that, but
I think it was in our last, is that what we were seeing? that too? No, it was
MSP, like a.
So is there,
something.
Yeah, maybe it
Is-
was.
I probably don't want the whole thing that I just sent. The weekend or is it on?
Well, it was either an MSBA or an MREA.
MASA or MREA
Yeah,
or?
some initial, some
So then a
newsletter thing I
family,
wrote
if, then a
for-
family would know that they qualify because they have that?
So
Or does the school have some kind of way of
Automatically kicking it in,
knowing? Probably not.
I don't know the details, but if
HIPAA and all
Yeah,
qualified
and
for
I,
Medicaid, they
it
would
didn't
qualify
have any
for
detail about that, but it did have that Medicaid's now a factor versus it was not before. Because I just remembered Cece saying that, because I was thinking years ago, it was a qualifier. And I don't know how you get by the privacy issue, I have no idea.
And,
They'd have to elect. They'd have to
Yeah.
offer that.
Yeah,
you know, unless like somehow if the county was meeting with a family about that for some reason, that they could
if they could sign a waiver.
encourage them to.
You know, and I think that that's what used to happen. I think they could get a list. I mean,
I feel like that's probably not a thing anymore.
that might not be a thing with the HIPAA stuff.
Yeah.
It might be something that the county would be willing to help in.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
that's all I have. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Let's move on to something that we have more answers and questions about, the E-rate funding, the upgrades and the additions.
He already did that.
Yeah, I know. Equally nebulous.
Like, I even remember that. No.
So, having said, anything else we want to discuss, because we're going to regular board meeting?
No.
Okay. And we want to break.
I just need to check on my
Yeah, go
situation.
ahead. I heard a lot of noise.
I'm just gonna look out the window.
Things are
and
too
see.
quiet.
Yeah, then you're on the hook.
You see the
Yeah.
sheet?
It's good, yes.
All
I
accounted
see the
for.
baby.
They just got their shoes lined up there. They're somewhere else. All right. Go ahead. We're just gonna wait till Jeff is done. All right.
I know, like I opened this during the meeting, I was like, oh god, I don't see this. My cousin just had it.
Let's do the pledge, get this thing started.
Right.
Yeah, pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody else want to grab a, might as well get it done. All right. Let's call the meeting to order at 7:06. I need an approval or a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented with changes. The red changes I'm looking at, the request to talk about the conceal and carry as a 6A item, and 8C, the approval of first reading of policy 503, student attendance, and 8E, the approval of the 2023 high school course handbook.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion by Johnson.
I'll second it.
Second by Romita.
There's one correction also, for appointments, I used the, oh, I see two errors now.
Okay.
I used the 21-22 salary schedule for Mr. Ferretz. Actually, I put the 22-23 salary schedule, so the salary, for MA step 4 is $50,458. So it's just a
It was,
correction.
yeah, it was 49 something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Should that be noted in the agenda? Just the date changes, that all? Or in the contract?
It'll be in the contract.
Well, it's a good surprise.
All right, any other discussion on agenda? So there were two.
The masking on the buses, is that something we need to approve, or are we just going to implement it?
You'll approve that when you approve the plan.
Okay, okay.
No further discussion. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the previously noted changes, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes, the invoices, statements, and bank reconciliation, and the appointments of Georgie Klostermeyer, bus driver, Dave Kendall, custodian, and PJ Frericks, high school social studies teacher.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by
Sonstegard.
Sonstegard, excuse me. I was gonna use your first name, didn't sound professional. Discussion. The high school social studies teacher, that was quick.
That was, in fact, I have, I think 4 other applicants, so I was very pleased with how quick I could get that posted. And Mr. Ferricks is excited to move south again. He is a native of Minnesota, so,
Where does he
Can I
live
say it,
now?
Sam?
Where does he live now?
Alaska.
Alaska.
Oh, okay. Well,
He's in Alaska.
Well, I mean, that was the only
Where
thing-
he lives as a village.
yeah, I was
so-
going to say Canada or Alaska.
Alaska.
Yeah, I heard through the grapevine, he's interested in doing some coaching as well.
Yes, he is very much interested in doing some coaching. Baseball is his passion.
He and I have had a conversation about it, so we're going to get him involved in at least summer ball this summer, so on the hook
Yeah, he
early.
will. He finished school the middle of May, so I mean, he's already been looking for places to live here, and his significant other will be joining him from St. Cloud, so.
Nice.
Where are you getting the applicants from? Are you going through the usual
On
suspects?
EdPost, so EdPost would be the main place. In fact, Harley was gonna put it in the paper, but we didn't need to do that because we already had viable candidates, very good candidates, so.
Good. Maybe times are changing, people want to move up here. Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Any board presenters out there? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to written communications. You want to read that, or do we want to discuss
No,
it?
just informational, it's archived in the board packet.
Okay, everybody got a chance to read that, the request for conceal and carry. Any discussion on that?
Do we need a motion or anything first, or can we discuss it beforehand?
don't
I mean, I'll
think-
discuss it now, I'm
It's
happy to
just
discuss it
information.
now.
It's not an
Okay.
action item.
Okay, okay, well, I guess my discussion would be, while I'm all in favor of conceal and carry, it's an odd request. I assume it's a philosophical type thing, so.
Without knowing, I'll put my foot in my mouth and say that was my thought on it too, was
Yeah.
more, let's put the toe in the water and see what response we get.
Yep. So, but, yeah, I know I'm inclined to go, no. At least at this point in time.
Well, I appreciate because I would have said that you're in favor of concealed carry.
Yeah.
but- And having said that as a board member, also understanding the difference between that and a school system, the two differences, which I appreciate. I think that's a fine line, but I'm not comfortable with that either in terms of having somebody run a concealed carry permit in and using it in our school.
Now, if you want to get to discussion about teachers or other staff with concealed weapons permits carrying within the school, that's a different matter. But just the somebody off the street just generically doing it, not at this point.
At the moment, we have your permission as the firewall, so to speak, between the building and the gun, or the weapon. So at the moment, I think we do have an appropriate firewall. If somebody wants to carry and it's appropriate, you have the right to allow that. I don't want to put too much burden on you, but I'm glad that there's some thought into that. Okay, do we want to move on? Further discussion?
Anyone else?
I would say that would have to be a community and school board discussion before I would allow.
Yeah.
One by
Law enforcement.
law enforcement at this time. I think that's good and bad on both sides, but it is a big step, and I think that it would have to be something done more in public than just granting that. So I have not permitted anyone to do that.
And like this request, you would come to the board with that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
The impression I got was that they're looking for a place to teach their class in Lakewood, Wisconsin. That was just the impression I got.
Yeah, I I didn't get that impression. I know they had a booth at the extravaganza, and they did request back in November, and we just gave a verbal, no, not at that event, we did, they needed to do that. They've never requested through facility use to do a class here.
Yeah, I guess I would think they would have specifically mentioned that little tidbit, had that been their primary motive.
Like I said, reading between the lines, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think
I
some
thought
of it
it was
is
the principal.
bringing awareness that people can request that.
Yeah.
That's, I think part of it's just bringing awareness to people. But I think public debate and discussions would have to happen before we do that. I think that.
Yeah, I guess point out the tidbit that concealed weapon carrier permit holders have been responsible for like 0.00 something % of crime. So it's not somebody legally carrying a firearm that's causing problems.
All right. Ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, old business, the approval of the, make sure I got that right in there, the tiered level implementation of health and safety procedures, and the approval of returning to holding school board meetings once per month. Are we doing those both at the same time?
No,
Okay, I got the two business areas.
7A and 7B.
Yep. So I do need a motion and a second to approve the revised safe and person learning plan with the removal of masking mandate on school bus and
I'll make
cars.
that motion.
Okay,
I'll
motion
second
by
it.
Johnson, second by Robita. Discussion? We've done that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And similarly, I need a motion and a second to approve the tiered level implementation of health and safety procedures at the low level.
Make that motion.
Motion by Ellis,
Second.
second by Johnson. Once again, I think the discussion's already been out there, but anybody want to further it? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries unanimously. And finally, on that front, I need a motion and a second to approve the elimination of the second additional monthly board meeting schedule for the remainder of the 21-22 school year.
I'll make the motion.
Johnson,
I'll second.
second by Sondergaard. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
The expense sheets.
Oh.
Here today. Yeah.
Motion and a second to approve the 2021 to 2024 superintendent elementary
one of those.
principal contract.
I'll make the motion to keep them.
Okay, we got a motion by Johnson.
Huh?
Earl second.
I
Second
think
by
so.
Trask. Aye. Discussion.
Can you just say the names of the people that are on the committee for this, that's developed that?
I am.
Me.
Sondergaard and Robita.
Just in case people have questions.
No, I mean, we haven't discussed it one bit, really. I mean, other than, I think personally with Jeff, we had some discussions in there.
Well, just a favorable review, I thought, so, that, yeah.
And I think everything was fairly straightforward, explained last time, but in terms of the raises and the memorandum of understanding that was attached to that I think is attached to every school employee's contract at this point right now. Like I said, I think really nothing changes other than that insurance increase and the salary increase that was 2%. Bottom line, and I think goes right along hand in hand with what we've done with the rest of the school staff. Appreciate that. I mean, I don't know if this is the time you say something nice about your tenure here, but appreciate the fact that you're signing on for 3 more years. And if we approve the contract, you will definitely extend the average life expectancy of a superintendent in the state of Minnesota.
So I don't wanna say too much.
Would you have a question? No. Seemed like you were digging at something down there.
No, I wasn't.
All right. Well, I got no other questions, but all those in favor of approving the 21 to 2024 superintendent elementary principal contract signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, unanimously. Thank you again. I need a motion and a second to approve some policies here. I need a motion and a second to approve the third reading of policies 102, equal educational opportunity, 406, 406, public and private personnel data, and 413, harassment and violence.
I'll make that motion.
Trask,
I'll second it.
second by Robita. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved unanimously. Moving on, motion and a second to approve first reading of policy 503, student attendance.
I'll make that motion.
Trask, second.
I'll second that.
Second Ellis. Okay, discussion. It seems like every time we bring this policy up, we have some specific issues. We have had none. This is not something that we're discussing specifically in others, but it had to do with spring vacations and, you know, that. And I think you haven't had anybody banging on your door.
No, I think most of the changes was just adding some language on religious days off. And then the reason I went with, we decided to do 3 readings, if I remember right, was because the letters were reworded a little bit.
Say that again, last part.
Some of the letters were reworded a little bit, but nothing changed. But I don't know why I have it on here for 3 readings, but.
Not a question of the import of it.
Excuse me. I had 3 readings in my notes. So that's
I didn't write it down, so.
but if you look at some of my spelling in the air right now.
I just remember in the past, we had discussions about how people were all of a sudden just abruptly shown a letter that said the kid is about to fail if he doesn't attend class every day for the rest of the year. And it wasn't that abrupt, but we softened the tone of the letters a little bit.
Yep.
Just trying to encourage them to come in and get a game plan established.
Yeah.
We eliminated the failure status, yeah.
That might have been it. We deem your child a
Your
failure.
student is in a failure status.
I might add one in that.
Not trying to dread to go, but I'm ready to move on with a discussion if you have it, but hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And I need a motion and a second to approve and adopt policies 425 on staff development, 534 on unpaid meal charges, 414 mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse policy, 415 mandated reporting of maltreatment of vulnerable adults, 506 student discipline, 514 bullying prohibition policy, 522 student sex non-discrimination, policy 616 school district system accountability, and policy 806, crisis management policy. Need a motion and a second.
Make the motion.
Motion by Johnson,
I'll second that.
second by Ellis. Discussion on any of those. Covered a lot of ground. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Second, opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Moving on past policy there, we're going to motion in a second to approve the 2022-2023 high school course handbook.
Make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Second by Trask. Discussion. having looked through what was a pretty lengthy document, I mean, pretty hefty document, do kids ever get intimidated by that? I mean, do you ever have a kid come in and say,
I was sharing with Corinne, one of my things for my summer to-do list is to get rid of a lot of that wording. And we don't need it to be so wordy, so we can cut to the chase of what's being offered and where your opportunities are, so.
so I shouldn't feel.
So for the most, to answer your question, Tim, most of the time they don't read it because it's too wordy. So I want it to be a usable document, so that's why I want to condense it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that was my knee-jerk reaction to it, was some kid who's struggling to get through his second year of high school might find that intimidating.
Our stellar students.
All right, we have the motion and the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Any other business? Okay, we'll adjourn at 7:25. Thanks for the pizza.
Yes, thank you.